Hello, 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 hello. It has it has been a hot minute since I have actually um painted something on stream. So, take a look at what we're working on today. Ooh yeah. We got Keening from Skyrim. Now I know you're probably looking at it like this thing is already painted, you nerd. Why is that? It isn't already painted. I have a couple of things that I'm doing with it. So this was actually a repair job. I made this sword like and oh, 1 second. Do. I need a bit more to mind. Okay. 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 I think. Oh, no. Oh? Okay. There's a little bit of audio glitchiness there. I think I just had to free up some memory space on my computer. Too many tabs open. Anyways, so I actually I made this months ago. Oh, and now the audio problems are back again. Hello? I think we're fine. There might be occasional glitchiness, and I'm sorry if that's the case. Let's see. Okay. I'm just I'm adjusting settings and things just to see if it fixes it at all. Whatever. My streams were never that professional. But yeah. Okay. I'm going to see if I can actually get through this opening speech. So yeah, I made this sword for a friend a couple months ago, and it was before I started putting metal rods in things. And because this didn't have a metal rod in it, it fell off of a shelf and the handle snapped off. You can see the seam here. It's right here. Like, I had to fix that today. That was the first thing I did with this. I repaired it. But also, this project in general just has a couple of really fragile things on it. Like these spikes are a lot more fragile than the rest of the blade and the handle and everything else. It it honestly just would have been so much better had I put a metal rod in it at when I first made it, but I didn't know how to really do that effectively at the time. But today I put a metal rod in the handle and it goes up into this middle central area. So now, is it more stable? Probably not. It's probably about the same, maybe even less stable than it originally was, just because plastic is fragile when it's already broken. But I, as long as this isn't swung around crazily, it'll be fine. And in the future, I'm going to be putting metal rods in this project for the project that I have on Etsy, or that I will have on Etsy. I plan on putting this on Etsy for anyone to buy. Yeah, I'll for future times, like whenever I make this project again, I'll be sure to put a metal rod all the way through it so that the chances of it breaking are slim. So, without further ado, let us get to the actual painting. So, as you can see, yeah, my friend already began painting this project. So the crystal, or the blade, is actually mostly done. It looks like 1 or 2 coats, maybe even 3 in some places, have been layered onto the blade. And I'm going to put an additional coat of the paint that they gave me onto the blade, but I'm not going to do that first. I'm actually going to do the rest of the sword, and then I'll move on to the blade, because this whole complex, the spikes, this thing, the handle, it's all one color. And the color that my friend provided me, uh, Artist's Loft brand metallic bronze, is a perfect choice. I honestly think it fits so well. Like from the images that I've seen of the sword, it's called Keening. I think that this color is just a perfect fit. Okay. So yeah. Now, keep in mind that this is not like the final coat of paint that's going to be put on this sword. And what I mean by that is, firstly, this bronze color, this metallic bronze, is going to need a few coats of paint before I call it solid. And then afterwards, I'm actually going to be adding a weathering layer, which will be the first time I've actually done it on stream or on my YouTube channel. I don't know if I will get to it today because I need to have all of the bronze completely finished before I do a weathering layer. But if I don't get to it today, it'll happen really soon. I don't know if it'll be on stream for sure or not, but it'll for sure be in the final YouTube video. So be sure to check that out if you want to see how I weather this project. And if you don't know what weathering is, it's basically you just make something look old. You got to make something look like it's been through a lot. It's weathered. And judging by the official artwork and game models that I've seen on this project, this thing is very weathered. It's got a lot of brown, a lot of various spots of rust, it looks like, or at least dirt. Dirt has kind of covered it. But like I said, that's the last painting step that I'm going to be doing, and I probably will not get to it in this stream. At most, I'll be able to show you just a little demo on how I do it if this bronze looks good. But I don't think I'll get to it this stream. But either way, you'll see it. But in the meantime, we got to make this bronze layer look pretty smooth. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect because any imperfections can actually be covered up by the rust later and the weathering layer. And that's why I like making imperfect swords, because they are the easiest to cover up mistakes. Any mistake can be covered up with the weathering layer with relative ease. Just be like, oh man, it's there's a random crack here. I guess I'll just put a little bit of rust there and presto, it's gone. I've had to make a couple of projects in the past that have rust-like features or weathering on them. And honestly, it just makes my life so much easier. So these side pieces, these beams that sort of hold the crystal in place, were printed horizontally. So this was the bottom, and this was the top. And because of that, there is a unique sort of crisscross pattern on this side. I'm actually going to hold it up. Let's see if like the camera can get it. Can you guys see those? Yeah, do you see that crisscrossy? That crisscrossy would not have occurred had I actually printed this sword um like vertically. I guess I could have printed it vertically. Oh, your mic sounds so good. Oh, thank you. I just purchased this new mic. I'm still figuring it out. I need to adjust like bass and output and things like that, but already it is a huge step up from my previous microphone, which was literally just a pair of Apple earbuds. So I think that this is already a step up, but I still have a lot to learn about audio and video making and things like that. Honestly, when I got the Artist Loft paint from my friend, I was a little bit skeptical. Hi, Wissy. Hello. I got this paint from my friend. I was actually a little bit skeptical. I've used Artist Loft before, and usually it's just really cheap. And sometimes cheap is good if you just want like solid colors. But when this was metallic, I was a little bit skeptical. I'm like, it's a cheap paint. Is it really going to be good? Honestly, I could not be happier with how this paint is layering. Can you see that? Ooh, yeah. Now it's starting to show up in the shine. Yeah, it's actually looking quite good. So that's surprising and also welcome. I think this will probably need 2 to 3 coats, 2 if I'm lucky. But I might go 3 just to make sure that everything looks good. Sometimes you can get away with 1 coat of paint, and I think the only color I've been able to get away with 1 coat of paint is Gunmetal Gray, my favorite paint ever. Speaking of Gunmetal Gray, this project involves absolutely no Gunmetal Gray. I'm not mad. I've had a lot of projects with Gunmetal Gray in them, so I'm actually happy for the change of color. A little bit of variety ain't hurt nobody. There's these little crevices here. This is a really like obvious painting tip, but use the like edge of your brush to get in between small gaps like this. If a gap is too small for your paintbrush, you either need a smaller paintbrush or those gaps are just way too small and you probably shouldn't have printed it with that much detail. I understand if you're 3D printing things like miniatures for Dungeons and Dragons that you want the most detail possible, but sometimes that's not what you want. Sometimes it just hurts the quality of the paint job or the print, one of the two. So I'm not going to get too close to the crystal here because I actually have a smaller brush that I'm going to be using for finer details and getting in gaps later. So I'm just going to leave that little portion and I'm going to move right along to this part. I don't know what to really call this. This has a very unique anatomy. Keening doesn't really have a cross guard. It just has these spikes that protrude out from the side. So it isn't really a cross guard, but it could operate as one. And this little like bridge of metal here that I'm painting, it doesn't really have a sword anatomy name. which is really interesting. I always like swords with unique shapes. I also like swords with unique colors. So, gotta say, this sword is already like very fun. I will say though that this sword did take a lot of pieces. Each individual bolt and spike is its own piece. The handle is comprised of two pieces. The main central body is another two pieces or three pieces, and the blade is three pieces. So I'm not going to do the math, but it was quite a lot of individual things that needed to be printed out in this case. Honestly, when I'm just looking over at the camera, and I think this thing is already looking very metallic on camera. I can assure you that it does not look quite like metal on this end. it it hasn't got there yet, but it will after a couple coats of paint. It looks very good. Oh, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. I printed it myself, and I've only used one color of paint. So, is this keening? Yes, yes, this is keening. A very deadly sword, to my understanding. If you hold it, you die, or something like that. I've never played Skyrim, or is this sword in Skyrim? Yeah, I think so. And it's in one other game. Just wait until I have the money. I'm gonna make you make me a sword. I would love to. I would love to make you a sword. Anything you want. I heard you might have interest in a Minecraft sword. Don't worry, that is actually on my project list, so it'll be coming out relatively soon. Oh yes, yeah. Don't worry, I'm gonna crank that one out pretty soon. The only thing is, the Minecraft sword is actually going to take around 5 days to print. And I plan on starting to print it tomorrow. So there's going to be a little bit of delay, but I want to get that out as so much as possible. Oh, what? Yes, you want so bad. I can give you all the cosplay pics in. Oh man, are you gonna cosplay Alex or Steve or some other mob that can hold a sword? If so, I'm all for it. Cosplay is fun. Oh yeah, 5 days. Um, yeah, it's gonna take 5 days, but Wissy, I don't think you can complain because Virtuous Contract took about 9 days, so you should start appealing to the Dream SMP fandom. They love cosplay stuff. I have never heard of this. Do they have a subreddit? I can advertise for you on my TikTok. You can do whatever you want once you actually get the sword. If you want to throw my name in there or a link or something, feel free. I'm not going to say that you should or pressure you, but I would greatly appreciate it if you were to do anything involving my projects because I do want to get out there. It's a roleplay Minecraft server. Okay. All right. Okay. I will take a look into that and I'll see what I can do there. That's really good to know because obviously, Minecraft Sword, I feel like already will be quite popular, considering that Minecraft is the best-selling game of all time. But anything to add to the chances of it getting purchased will be a great help. So I know it's a little bit dark on screen, but I'm actually just getting the handle. Actually, I can move this just a little bit so you can better see what I'm doing. You have so much Dream SMP knowledge. Is it weird that I've never heard of this? Like, I don't think that I'm like really deep into the Minecraft community, but I play Minecraft. I like Minecraft, and I've honestly just never even heard of Dream SMP. Maybe my YouTube recommendations just aren't calibrated to show me that stuff. Because that's where I get all of my Minecraft knowledge. It's got to be from YouTube. I'm a huge fan of Minecraft. I love Minecraft. Here we are on a Skyrim slash Oblivion stream talking about Minecraft. I would like to make more like Minecraft projects down the line, but I'm just not sure actually how I would do it. Because the thing about the sword is all I did was sharpen the blade so that it actually looked like a sword blade. But with things like the axe or the pickaxe, the iconic part of it is the blade. So I wouldn't really know what to change about it to make it more Minecrafty. I could make it look completely Minecraft, or I could make it look like an axe or a pickaxe. But I don't know how I would do both, and I kind of need to think about that. It's pretty big, but it definitely appeals to a very specific audience. Okay, I don't feel as bad that I don't know about it. I mean, if I'm just a casual Minecrafter, so if it's anything like competitive, or if it's anything that's mega different from vanilla Minecraft, or anything that's uber creative, I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna flip this around so I can get the other border here. Do do do. All right. Once again, on camera, this is actually looking a lot better than it looks in real life. This is going to take a good couple coats. I keep making swords about games that I know nothing about, and I'm realizing this now. I mean, I've never played Nier Automata. I almost said Virtuous Contract. I've never played Virtuous Contract. I've never played any sort of Kirby game, or I've never played Persona 5. There's just so many things that I've not played that I've made projects for in the past. Oh yeah, speaking of Persona 5 and Kirby, expect some projects on the YouTube channel very soon. I have a couple of models that I need to crank out over there. But Minecraft, I know about Minecraft, and I can't wait to make a Minecraft sword. I'm playing Final Fantasy VII Remake now. Buster Sword in your future? JK, I'm broke. It's a cool game, though. Well, I think that the Buster Sword is a bucket list item for me now. Obviously, I would prefer that someone actually purchased it from me so that I didn't just make it and hope that someone would buy it. However, I feel like no matter what, I will end up making it eventually. Whether it's out of my own pocket or whether a customer actually wants it, just because when you think of video game sword, the Buster Sword is always the first thing that comes to mind. And I think that if you're anybody who's anybody, you can make a Buster Sword with your 3D printer. So that's going to be a challenge, but also a very fun experience, I think. I do plan on making the Buster Sword. I just don't know when. It's on the list. I have a list and it is on it. And if I was to like pick a version of the Buster Sword, I would do the Final Fantasy VII remake version, just because of all of the hype surrounding the Final Fantasy VII remake. Also, I just have been looking at the swords, the different versions of the Buster Sword, and I think that the 7 remake version of the sword is the best looking. It's got some really good details in it that I like. Just adds a little bit of flavor to the sword instead of it just being a solid plate of sharpened steel. And obviously, if you prefer the gears and like multiple swords from Final Fantasy Advent Children, then that's no matter how long it takes, you should make the Buster Sword. It'll still probably come out before Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2. There's going to be a Part 2? You're joking. What? Tasty sword. What? What do you mean there's a Part 2? Oh, you're kidding. They only went halfway through. Oh, man. They are milking Final Fantasy VII. Okay. If you couldn't tell, I've never played Final Fantasy VII. Or the remake thereof. Well, good to know. Maybe when the hype train around that comes around in like 10 years or whatever. It's like they remade half the game, but like as a full game, and then they went big plot twist, and then are going to do the second half. Oh, that's right. It doesn't follow the exact same plot as the original Final Fantasy VII. I remember this now. Spoiler alert for Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's been out for a while. I feel like I shouldn't have to say that. Lol. But with the original story. And yeah, that is really interesting how they decided to tackle Final Fantasy VII Remake. I mean, I really like that they're actually doing something different, but the fact that they're still milking Final Fantasy VII is a little strange. These tiny spikes, the smallest variant of the spikes, are very fragile. And the only reason is because they're just super thin. And there's nothing that can be done about it, really. Unless like there's a stronger filament type out there that exists. And I'm sure there is, but I'm sure it costs like $1,000. There's nothing I can do. There is nothing I can do about this spike being just so fragile compared to the rest of the sword. Everyone be like, please make the Final Fantasy VII remake. And then Square Enix was like, sure, but also no. True. Square Enix, man. What an enigma of a game company. I didn't know that they were actually responsible for Nier Automata. That is one thing I did not know. But then, I was following the Smash Ultimate hype train and stuff like that. And then I learned. So we're almost done with the main portion of keening here with the bronze color. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just see if there are any other places that I can get with this larger brush. I have played so many Square Enix games now, I have fallen into their marketing scheme of hot anime characters. It's an easy pit to fall into. You don't know that you're falling into it until you're 3 feet deep. Okay, taking a look. Oh, there's a small gap right here that I can get on both sides. I'm going to probably have to really get within these gaps with a flashlight because it's just such a narrow pathway, and I'll have to do that off stream during my second coat, but that's fine. I usually have to do a lot of stuff on the second coat that I don't do on the first coat. Anna's really out here hijacking your stream. Well, no one else is. It's just me painting a sword. I can talk about whatever in the meantime. Yeah, it doesn't matter to me. In the YouTube video, there's going to be no audio from this. And sure, I'll post the unedited stream later, but like, okay, it's a stream. Like, it's just a chill vibe in here. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. I mean, okay, it doesn't matter what I'm saying. It does matter what I'm doing. What I'm doing is a little bit important for my YouTube channel and my Etsy store. Okay, so I just cleaned off my larger brush, and now I'm going to decide on a smaller brush. This is a tough choice. I'm going to go for a little bit too small of a brush, and by too small, I mean it'll be inefficient painting speed, but it'll be good. It'll be good for all the little crevices and details. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to get with the smaller brush is this little ridge that I was talking about earlier that I said I would get with the smaller brush. Well, now is that time. And I'm also going to just use the leftover paint on my brush to fill in a little bit more of the gaps that are in this circular centerpiece. I suppose that could be the term used for this entire middle part of keening. It could be the centerpiece. The centerpiece is usually just a part of the sword that is purely for decoration or intimidation. It's just to make the sword look fancy or fearsome. And I guess that's kind of what this is. It's in the middle of the sword. So it could be the centerpiece. I'm also going to get the sides of this circular piece here, all along the edges. It's not often that you actually get to see me do some delicate detail work on stream. Usually I'm just doing the base colors and globbing paint on everything, but not this time. There's a couple of gaps that are inside the bolts, so I'm going to get those and just get a couple little areas that I appear to have missed. No big deal. There's a little bit of a crack here. Just going to fill that in with bronze paint completely. That'll be weathered later to look a little bit better. Okay, going to get the rest of these bolts as much as I can. patience. It's all one color, but you still got to be patient when you are painting. Otherwise, you'll end up with real sloppy stuff, real like globby pieces of the project that look like you rushed it. I'm getting the edge of the pommel now, although I would not call this a pommel because the pommel is known for being a blunt object. This crescent shape at the end is not at all blunt, it is very sharp. Okay, I'm going to get the under edge of this little supporting beam here. Oh, heard a little bit of an audio glitch. Not much I could do about it anymore. Being real careful, I'm concentrating. Because I don't want to get any bronze on the already existing paint that's on the crystal part. Because then I would just have to redo it later. Okay, gonna get underneath this gap here. One thing that I'm not going to do on stream is actually try and get underneath this brace or bracket because that's going to involve me holding the whole project like at a really weird angle, and that will not be good camera work. So I'm not going to do that on stream. I'll just do that at a different time. I'm going to rotate this around just so I have light on this edge. There we go. I can see a lot better. Yeah, I gotta be pretty careful here. This is unusual for my streams. I have to concentrate so much that I just find myself, I like stop talking. I'm like, oh no. Just got a little bit more of this to go though. This edge. And this edge will be cleaned up on the second coat. Maybe even the third. We'll see if there is a third or not, depending. Okay, I'm going to call that good there. There's a little bit of stuff that's in these gaps that I can get, but not much else. Okay, so now I don't know how well you guys can see this, but on the sides of these braces, there is this gap in here, and on the interior of that gap, it's part of the bracket, so it has to be bronze, but it also connects directly to the crystal. So I need to really carefully just brush the inside of this with the small brush. Get as close as I can to the crystal, trying not to touch it. If I do touch it a little bit, that's fine because I'm still going to have to put more coats of paint on the crystal later. But I just gotta be real careful not to smear it all over the crystal here. Like this. And I know you guys definitely cannot see what I'm doing right now, but there's not much I can do about it because this is such a tight little area in here. Getting it to show up on camera would be quite difficult. I'm not going to say impossible, but it would be quite difficult. Okay, I got that inside edge. Now I'm going to rotate the sword so that I have light on the opposite edge. And I'm going to do the other side exactly the same. Going from left to right because that's what I'm most comfortable with. If you're left-handed, I'd imagine you go right to left. It's a little bit tricky. Careful, 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 careful. Okay. We're getting there. I can actually see a printing error in this gap, but because it's such a tight space and it's so thin, it really does not show up much at all. So that's nice. Would hate to have to completely deconstruct this thing or completely start over now. Okay, so I think that'll do it for the bronze. Maybe. Actually, I can do a little bit more. So I'm going to hold it by the crystal. And I'm actually going to get the rest of the handle just so that I can use up this paint. Because this handle doesn't touch the table when I have it laying on the table. So I'm just going to quickly throw my remaining paint on this handle. And I'm using a tiny brush to do it, but it doesn't matter. I just don't want to waste paint, is all. Poured myself a little bit too much. And I would have had to do this anyway, so this works out. One thing to keep in mind if you yourself are ever painting a 3D printed project is to always paint the first coat with the grain. And by grain, I mean print lines. So if you printed your piece horizontally, or vertically, I guess would be a better example. So you have a piece that was vertically printed. You want to paint horizontally. So you want to paint the opposite of how you printed it so that you're painting with the print lines. And the reason you want to do this on the first coat is because it gets in all of those grooves and it leaves you with a lot less work later. And then on the second coat, you'd actually want to do the opposite. You want to paint against the lines. And the reason you want to paint it against the lines is just because I would say it's actually situational. Like sometimes you want to paint against the lines, but sometimes you don't. And it really all depends on the shape of the piece. More often than not, there will be a vertical layer and a horizontal layer of paint, and then a final additional vertical layer of paint. But sometimes there's like one color or one piece that just does not want to work like that. And that is for the painter to discover. I've had to do a lot of trial and error with my paints just to see how they react to being painted on this layered plastic. Sometimes they don't like it, and I typically try to avoid using those paints because they're annoying. If you remember all the way back to the Meow Mirror video, Aqua Flash, Folk Art Metallic Aqua Flash, probably the worst paint I've ever used for painting plastic, specifically this 3D printed plastic. It really did not like being painted onto there. I don't know, it was so strange. I'm going to set that down now because I think the other side is dry enough. I'm just going to get this tail here. The crescent-shaped tail, the moon-shaped tail. But yeah, that Aqua Flash paint was probably the worst paint I've ever used. And I'm sure this is like the 4th or 5th time I brought it up now, but never again. I've already bought a replacement color, so if anyone actually orders a Meow Mirror, they'll still get the same product, but the paint will just be a tiny bit different, but not so different that you would notice. It's just a different brand, so hopefully it will work a little bit better. It still has the holographic effect. Okay, just a little bit more here of the bronze color, and then I'm going to move on to the only other color that you're going to see today. Okay, flip this over. Got a little bit of paint on my hands. Whoops. That's fine though. So now I'm just cleaning my brush, and I'm going to make sure that my fingers don't have any wet paint on them while I'm working with this, because I don't want to smear it all over the place. And it's pretty much dried instantly. Okay. So next we have the crystal, and we already have the color. I'm just going to do one side of the crystal, and it shouldn't take that long. And this will be a good test to see how many coats of paint I'm actually going to have to do on the crystal. And to do that, we have the return of Martha Stewart. Martha Stewart brand paint. It's Pearl. It's just called Pearl. All of the Martha Stewart brand paints, if they have a metallic or pearlescent finish, they're just called Pearl. They don't actually have a color name. So the other one I actually just called Pink Pearl, because that's what it was. It was pink and it was pearl. I don't know what I'm going to call this one, because this is like teal. Okay. Let's see, what brush would be best for this? I'm going to use another medium-sized brush. I don't know the actual dimensions or names for any of my brushes, but this one is medium-sized in my opinion. Poop-a-doop. And here we go with this very fancy color. There might not be a ton of difference on camera, but there should be some difference for me, because I'm sitting right here and I can see a difference. So that's good. just very evenly coat this. Don't want it to be all over the place. Evenly. Now, one thing about this crystal is it actually has to get weathered too. And I don't know how I'm going to do it quite yet. I will figure it out. But one thing that this crystal needs is cracks. I need to add cracks to it somehow. And I'm thinking I have an idea, but if it doesn't work, I'll just throw another layer of this cyan teal flash on here, and then it'll just be a brand spanking new crystal. But I really do hope to figure out a way to weather it so that it looks like it has cracks. It shouldn't be that hard. I've never done cracked glass or anything like that. I've never painted anything like that, so it'll be interesting. Getting the edges of this. Okay, and now there's this little inlet that's beyond the bracket that I need to get here. Yeah. This paint is a little thin, but I think I can handle it. I've honestly had worse paints than this. And sometimes these metallic paints, they can be a little bit deceptive just because they will, you paint them on and they don't look like they've done that much, but then they dry and all of a sudden it looks like they've become a little bit more solid. And that's really common with like a lot of metallic paints for some reason, and I'm not sure why. I'm not a chemist or anything like that. I don't know. I'm no expert. But something about the metallic qualities just shows up better when it's dry. Nice even coat. If you see like the technique that I'm using, I usually just glob some paint on the paintbrush. I put it onto the project and then I smear it so that it's even. And usually this gets some faster results and sometimes better results. Get that edge a little bit. I'm going to get in there with a smaller brush later, but that'll be on the second coat, so you guys will not be able to see that, unfortunately. You don't want to see me struggle with a thing like that. This edge. I'm not going to be doing any smaller brush stuff today. At least not for this teal color. Teal flash. I don't know. Teal pearl. I don't know what to call this. But I do think these colors, the two that are already on, are both very fitting for the project. Okay. And just like that, I think that's all I'm going to do on stream today. I'm probably going to try and finish painting this tomorrow. I don't think I will actually be streaming the weathering layer, unfortunately, but I am still going to record it. So you'll be able to see the weathering layer on the YouTube video once it gets uploaded. But yeah, I think that's all that I'm going to do on this right now. Take a look. I think it turns out pretty good for the first and a half layer. um, yeah, it's been a while since I've done a painting stream. So I'm really happy that I was able to do this today. And you people should look forward to some more painting in the future because I have a lot of projects on the assembly line right now. I guess that's what I would call it, the assembly line. So yeah, soon. I'll see you guys next time.